We're excited to have you join us for our new series, TnT, with myself, Teresa Pilegaard, and my friend Tina Legno. A forewarning for this series. Both Tina and myself are very passionate about equine welfare and also about rider welfare. And we may express some unpopular opinions in these videos. It is important for us to note as we go into this that we know there are wonderful people out there. There are wonderful people out there doing great work. There are people that are advocating for the welfare of their horses, that are treating riders with respect and dignity. And we are so grateful to see those people rise and do beautiful things in the horse world. It's also important for us to note that we know there are many people out there that want to do right by their animals, and they are searching for that. They maybe don't know where to turn, or they're on a journey of discovery in that area. And we want to say thank you so much to all of you that are doing that. We are aiming to lift the horse world up as we go into this series together. And we see the decades-long decline of the welfare of our beautiful animals, of the treatment of owners, riders, and trainers, professionals in the industry. And we want to see that change. So stay with us as we express some of these sentiments. Know that we see the good, we see the change. We want to stir more of that up and help provide you with a place where you can seek the good. So thank you for joining us today, and we'll roll right into our first episode. Hey, welcome to TnT with Teresa Pilegaard and Tina Legno. We're going to start jumping straight into what we hope is going to be the heart of this series, and that is where classicism fits into our modern equestrian world. We know that it's a very tumultuous time and that we need to find better answers for the state of our industry. And Tina and I are going to have perspectives from our own areas of the industry. So I would love to start with Tina introducing herself a little bit with what she does, because her work is absolutely beautiful and carrying on the classical tradition. And so Tina, just tell us a little bit about what you do.
Well, I train horses to be very well balanced, promoting soundness and creating very happy, harmonious relationships between horses and riders. I've been doing it for about 35 years now, and the basis and foundation of my work is purely classical, and I guess my whole driving force behind that was that I was able to remediate many horses that had unsoundness issues and behavioral issues using classical modalities. So that changed my career path, and that's pretty much what I've been doing from then and still now.
Now, do you have more amateurs that you are working with, or are you working with professionals as well?
I more or less now am working with more professionals. I have taught many amateurs and children and all of that, but I've streamlined my career now for people who own their own horses or are teaching other people as well.
I love that. I think that's one of the biggest things that we're seeing needs to change is education for professionals as a whole, improving that quality, because that will trickle down in and of itself. So that's very incredibly valuable.
Well, and I feel that if you are influencing the people who are teaching on a level where they're understanding more of how to maintain horses and soundness in the lesson programs, you find that the horses last a lot longer, and there's far less drama and bad things that happen because you're sustaining a horse in a balanced fashion, and you're educating, the children and the riders how to maintain that and learn from a positive horse that's trained well versus something that's going around miserable with life.
Yeah. And I think that's such an important point to make, that in our whole system here, we're perpetuating the cycle because our riding schools aren't changing.
Exactly. Well, and remember, when people would come ride with me years and years ago, and they would complain that they were still on a lunge line, and I would tell them, I'm like, well, the Spanish riding school keeps their students on the lunge line for a year. That's 365 days minus, your weekends, and you only come once a week. So therefore, if you calculate and do the math, it would be a long time before you're off the lunge line, because a year is a long time for once a week. And I find, I feel that it's a lot easier for people to come and learn and ride on horses that are more balanced and better trained. But it also creates a little bit of, what do I want to say? They don't realize how good it is until you go and you try to ride something that's not, and then you're like, whoa, wait a minute.
They realize how spoiled they were.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And I think that is an issue, because most people are in one side or the other, right? Either they've been riding the bomb-proof kick rides who are just shut down, imbalanced, hiding, trying to do their job, or they're riding these beautiful, well-balanced horses which are benefiting them in a very unique way. And we need to be able to go eventually from a balanced horse to be bringing up a green horse. We don't need the dead of the world kick rides, and we need to be able to get people past that idea that a bomb-proof horse is what they want and need. Usually that's a shutdown horse.
Exactly. Very, very sad situation.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of your business development, what do you see with the heart of what you do, its impact on the greater equestrian world, how it can continue to push us in a better direction for the well-being of the horse and the rider?
I feel that it allows the horses, to last a lot longer. You are creating or building a horse upon a solid foundation that promotes and maintains soundness. And through that, the horse is obviously happier to participate in whatever field it goes into. You could ride and do any disciplines with a horse that has a strong, solid foundation that's been classically trained. It doesn't even have to be for years and years and years. It could be very basic stuff. I feel that in order for the horse industry to see that, that's what's becoming hard, because a lot of these bigger farms that or larger lesson programs that are churning out riders and students, they're not putting the students on more balanced horses, and people make excuses for bad behavior. So I feel that a lot of times in my career, people have come to me when they have been, it's almost like they've hit a wall. So unfortunately, a lot of my clients have been those, but somehow we need to bring in the in-between and not have people hitting walls, because you could stop the wall a lot sooner if you recognize, the problems and what's going on with the balance. I don't know, I'm at a loss for words.
No, I agree. And I think from my side of things, the way we initially met is I was looking for a lesson horse. And I remember coming and going, this horse is way too well trained for what I need. And now I'm sitting here going, I wish I had bought that horse, because my perspective has changed in the last 8 years or so.
No, wait. It's funny you say that, because there was one time when I had this horse for sale in New York, and it was, I was knee deep in with Bettina, and we were like hardcore, and I was like, right on the ball with my new classical work, and I'd been in for like 10 years now, and some lady had come and looked at this quarter horse that I had. It was like nothing spectacular, didn't really look like much. She came and she rode him, and she's like, he's too trained for me. And I'm like, how does this even happen? And that's happened a couple times. So the funny thing that you say that, but I'm like, for me, I was like, well, wouldn't you want one that's trained?
Right.
Like it's so much better than a horse that's not.
Yes.
But I think that it's intimidating to people because you have to work at it a little bit.
You have to rise to the challenge. Whereas if you're getting these kick rides, you don't have to.
Well, and then you just have a miserable horse, though. And I think that's what people aren't understanding is that these horses are portraying misery because of a reason. It's not because they're just like that.
Yeah. And that's where a lot of my perspective changed soon after I met you, was learning in the therapeutic riding world where I came from. Horses burn out in 12 to 18 months, which is unacceptable to me. And we have to make a change. I think the therapeutic riding world needs to look at that too and see what changes need to be made. But that's where the path took me to, all right, it's time to really go back to the lunge line, to have these well-schooled horses that I'm sitting on, I'm working with trained professionals that can help me improve them.
Right.
So that the horses are happy, they're not burning out, the riders are safe, they're learning on balanced horses so they can be safe. Because let's face it, the reality is most people can't even walk a straight line. So if we put someone who can't walk a straight line on a horse that can't walk a straight line.
Most people can't even walk a horse on a straight line on the ground.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's interesting to see the biomechanic patterns and how that impacts the horse. There's a video on my Facebook page I put up about a student that struggles with walking straight, and you can see how the horse is moving just from their feet.
Right.
And we have to reapproach it, understanding that we have two flawed beings that we're trying to put together and force harmony.
Right.
And that seems to be where the dressage world has gone, is we're forcing harmony. And obviously that's not even the definition of harmony.
Right.
So we've gone so far away from what our end goal is. And so my hope is that as people like you are teaching more professionals, that we'll see that trickle down and that we can make an impact in the riding school at a foundational level for the well-being of the horse, the well-being of the rider. As I've done more and more of this in my own program, and I've had people come to me, those are the comments I've had, like, wow, this is a lot harder than I thought it would be, or, oh my gosh, this is the best trained horse that I've ever sat on. And it's a little shocking to me that that is the case. I think I've been a little insulated from the reality of some of the horse world, which is nice. But at the same time, I'm getting my eyes opened a little bit more as to the negativity that's out there and the lack of quality instruction and training.
Well, and I think as a general whole, if you create, awareness within the people and then within the horses, and it's like you're saying with the wellness within the relationship, I think as a general whole, we can create a different feel and build a more wellness-oriented riding program or bringing it into the whole industry itself, because the industry is not very healthy to some extent.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it's hard, because it's hard to bring in that wellness approach where people have to look at themselves and have to study and learn. And it's like going to school. You don't go to 5th grade if you don't pass through kindergarten.
Yeah.
And again, like the conversation we had before is, where do you begin? Because you got to kind of start at kindergarten, but you have to sort of infiltrate certain things in, because some people think they're up here when really they need to go back to kindergarten.
Yeah.
So it's creating more of an awareness, I believe. And in the end, it's like, don't we want the horses to be happier?
I don't think I have met anybody that would say no to that question.
Exactly.
And that's where it is an education approach. People don't know what that means, what that looks like. That even this beautiful approach to balancing the horse for the well-being of horse and rider is a thing, or the depth of it. And so I think people are searching, but they don't even know where to turn or what to look for. And so having the beauty of social media and technology, allowing that to spread is going to help push people, draw people to those that are doing it.
And finding more like-minded people who are looking for the wellness aspect of it. And even if people have questions, they can see, like, you can see the difference between this and that, and you can see the expression in the horse between this and that, and it's like you have to weigh it out on the scale. But in the end, isn't it, again, aren't we trying to do this because we love horses?
Yes.
And people are involved in it because they love horses?
Yes.
How much do they really love horses?
Well, and I think the key there is that observation and reflection have to be built into our programs.
Exactly.
And that has kind of been my theme
Yes.
this year is, what are we observing right now
Right,
from this horse?
right.
And honestly, what are we observing in
Upon
ourselves?
Yeah.
Because if we can't observe ourselves, how are we going to observe another?
Right.
And so we need to weave these very life skills into the program in order for people to reach balance, because if they're not going to find balance themselves, they
Right.
can't provide that
Exactly.
for the horse.
Right.
And even in a lesson program, as much as we sit and school our horses and make sure that they stay balanced and happy in between riders, we can't continue to put them in situations where a rider is coming who has not committed themselves to that journey.
Right. Right.
Because that horse is going to learn. That horse knows that that person is at that state, and it's not fair.
Well, and honestly, I spent many years of my life and my career working with and teaching people that were not committed. And I did it because I had to, in a sense. But now, looking back at things the way that I had kind of just went through it, if I had created a little bit more of a structure out of it all, I think that I may not have been burned out so much at one point where I was like, I don't want to teach on my own horses anymore. I'm completely done, because it's a big commitment. And people need to realize that. And I think that's another thing is, it's not, you can't just pull a horse out and ride it once a week. You have to do work, not even with the horses, on yourself.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That's my biggest thing that I've had to change, is my own self-balance and work, and the amount of time I put into that. Because it's not fair for me to demand balance of my horse if I'm not doing that myself.
Exactly.
And so, yes, it's a really large amount of time that we spend developing the horses, developing ourselves, the care that's top-notch going into them. And the question that always gets asked is, how do we make this accessible?
The world needs it.
The world does need it. And we want to provide it for the world, but not at the cost of our sanity and of our finances. And that is a huge challenge that I know I'm trying to brainstorm how we can get more access to the beauty of this, but that people also need to recognize it is a highly expensive journey. And we can't expect professionals to be giving it away, because the horses are going to lose and ultimately the riders are going to lose.